We have so many exciting things just on the horizon that's just like you can just touch it.
We want to be able to educate what homelessness really looks like. We want to tackle political things that are taking place, policy changes that affect what we do, current events, weather, people we deal with, the people we work with.
I think that that's so important to get our story out there. Always my favorite episodes are the guests, our homeless guests. And so seeing them from the first and now seeing them sit in front of a microphone and have confidence is just, that's so amazing to me.
I love to talk politics. I don't look to piss people off. I don't have a favorite.
Any thoughts on the One Big Beautiful Bill or Alligator, Alcatraz?
What I'm stunned by is the fact that they figured out in literally less than 2 weeks' time, went from idea to having it ready to open. And we can't get anything done for decades and decades and decades. And there's no money. There's never any money to do something. And yet we can expand our prison system, which we're doing. Rather than fix the immigration system, we're going to spend a ton of money to lock people up. These are taxpayer-funded public servants, and we have to start treating them as such.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tracy Lewis with Imagine Marketing, and I'm joined by Pastor Scott, who is the founder and CEO of Matthew's Hope, as well as Shelley Bradford, who is the president and executive director of Matthew's Hope. Welcome to Season 3 of Straight Talk, No BS with Matthew's Hope, presented by Imagine Marketing. At Imagine Marketing, we put in the extra effort to craft a tailored strategy for success. We also offer photography, videography, and even podcast productions like this. Book a free consultation today. In this episode, we will catch you up on everything that has transpired with Matthew's Hope since Season 2 ended and lay out what to expect in Season 3. Scott, for anyone who might be watching or listening to Straight Talk No BS with Matthew's Hope for the first time, what can they expect?
I think that, well, obviously we're homeless outreach, so we're going to focus on homeless issues. However, we also, inside of that, we want to be able to educate what homelessness really looks like. We want to tackle political things that are taking place, policy changes that affect what we do, current events, weather, people we deal with, the people we work with. And I mean, quite honestly, we just want to always leave this to being a wide open forum to even sometimes talk about things that have nothing to do with homelessness. But if you look at the bigger picture,
It all affects.
You do a bird's eye view. It all has something to do with what we do.
Definitely. And Shelley, this is our 79th episode of the podcast. What have been some of your favorite moments or guests so far?
It's probably my favorite guest. Nobody would even guess this one was when we sat down, the three of us, with Pastor Frankie. That was really special because he and I had a rough start. He didn't like seeing me come in, and I was nobody even at the time, and he didn't like me. And that was fun just to kind of have that mending and that, some of those bonds recreated. And always my favorite episodes are the guests. When we have guests on, just to see how far they've come. And I've seen them from the first. And so seeing them from the first and now seeing them sit in front of a microphone and have confidence is just, that's so amazing to me.
So Shelley, when you say guests, what does that mean, guests of Matthew's Hope?
What that means is our homeless guests, our people that, what we don't call our homeless people our clients. We don't call them our friends. They're our guests. They're guests within Matthew's Hope. And so that's what I mean when I say guests. We want to make sure that they are always welcome and they don't feel like a number. They don't feel like we're going to treat them like the next person.
Wow.
Yeah. And if you think of having a guest to your home, what have you, how are you going to treat those people? You want to make sure that, as Shelley said, you want people feel welcomed. They feel appreciated, respected, shown dignity. And that's a very big part of who we are is it's all about relationships.
Right. And Scott, are there any discussions or guests that stand out to you from the first 78 episodes?
Oh my goodness. Much like Shelley said, I think some of my favorites are always when we have our guests, our moving forward guests involved. Because when we first found them, many of them couldn't even make eye contact. For them to be able to sit here in front of a microphone and speak openly. I think Donnie was definitely one of my favorites because, and continues to be, because he just continues to grow and he goes from being a guest to someone who we discovered had pretty intense mental health issues to someone who's now an employee of Matthew's Hope.
And he's so thankful.
Oh, he every time I see him, even the last couple of days when I saw, he smiled and he just and here's what's really cool: the idea that he is out going to the very neighborhoods that he was living in to serving other homeless people. That makes me want to get up every morning,
right?
And then of course, Sherry has always been a favorite of mine, and Shannon, they will always be favorites of mine. They've almost become like children of mine. Shannon works for us now, goes from a heroin addicted single mom who loses her kids and everything else that could go down the chute did. You got Sherry, again, a single mom with a child born with Down syndrome who ends up living in her car. Older daughter drops out of high school to care for the younger one. That's the story that we'll continue to talk about in the future. I know for sure. And, there's so many great, I could go on, I think sometimes the other is people that haven't been able to come on. We see a lot of people and have served thousands over the years. And we've had guests that have successfully gone through the Moving Forward program, got their lives fully on track. And then tragedy hit, cancer and death and things like that they, that's a tough one for me to as I look back over the years, how many of those have been that have done everything they were asked to do, got their feet back on solid ground and then experienced the loss of a spouse or we had one couple that both of them ended up dying in a short period of time. Wow. And this is after everything came together. So
there's more to their story than just us seeing them on the streets or, in their tough times. So I encourage everybody who's watching and listening to go back into the episodes, back to episode 1.
Oh, yeah.
And learn about their story. And maybe you'll see a different perspective like I have come.
Well, I think it's sometimes, what I try to tell people to do is, and I do this constantly, is when you see someone who you believe is homeless, before you judge, ask yourself what took place in that person's life that made living like this acceptable. Mm-hmm. And then that opens a whole nother way of thinking, and the lens you look through changes quickly.
Definitely. Scott, what kind of reactions have you received from the community after starting this podcast?
Most of them have been very, very positive. I have to say, most of them have been super positive, and our donor base has grown. We get asked to do a lot of speaking engagements based on people seeing what we're doing here, which again gives us a chance to tell our story, but more importantly, and educate the community of what homelessness really looks like. And then, they have to use a term that John often hates me use. You got the nasty grams. You get the ones who, are planning my death for whatever reason or blame me personally for homelessness. Those get tough to take sometimes because sometimes you just want to say, for crying out loud, we're just trying to help people.
Right.
It's really that important on how much money I make or where I live or threaten my life over this or threaten my well-being. It just, I try to laugh about it. There's other times where it's like, it can be pretty startling.
Yeah. It gets old.
Yeah.
It gets old.
What are a few topics you guys are looking forward to discussing in season 3?
Well, I know where you're going to go.
Go ahead.
I'm really looking forward to continuing to tell our story. I think that's so important to get our story out there. And the more people get interested in what we are actually doing and not assuming at what it looks like to work at a homeless ministry, that excites me.
I feel like you guys are ever changing, always thinking, one step ahead of how can we help them more? How can we set up services
and we
such as the buses that are coming?
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. We have so many exciting things just on the horizon that's just like, you can just touch it.
And a lot of
exciting
do is based on changing politics, changing policy, changing demographics, which are also sometimes tied to the others. I mean, I love to talk politics. I don't look to piss people off. I don't have a favorite. I honestly would ask anybody to ask themselves, what can you think of over the last several decades that a politician has done to to improve your life in some way, as opposed to them telling you it's improved and you just believing it, or telling them it's bad and you believing that. So I love to talk about politics from the standpoint of having healthy debate. I invite people on. We rarely get someone to say, I'll come. But if you got so much to say on social media, come on here and tell us why you believe what you do. I'm happy to bring somebody on that disagrees with us.
And you guys are really good about I got you. You really want to come to this table and understand their perspective and help them understand your perspective as well.
What does that serve? It doesn't really get to any kind of conclusion, and it doesn't bring people together. It just causes division.
Yeah, this is not a try to get you kind of thing. I mean, look, if somebody wants to make an ass of themselves, they can do that by themselves. And often I will let them continue to talk, prove my point. But we're not here to sit there and say, we can say we disagree, but we're not here to say you're wrong. And because of that, you're a terrible human being. That's just not what we're about. We really have a desire to educate and to create conversation, because if all you're doing is saying you're bad, no, you're bad, no, you're bad, nothing gets accomplished. And we're approving that as a society for the last several administrations. It's just finger pointing. I mean, whether you like Trump or not, what I find fascinating is anything that he believes he's accomplished, he is now blaming the Democrats or Biden. It's like, let it go. Right. Let it go. You won the damn election. Go on and be a leader. Quit talking about what somebody else did. And so, we don't spend a lot of times, even ourselves, whether it's politicians or another organization, talking about what they did lesser than us. What we talk about is how quickly we can move and adjust who we are based on the constant change in demographics and policy and what have you.
Right. So you guys mentioned Sherry earlier as a guest, and she'll be joining us for the second time in a few weeks. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. There's some exciting things to share, and I'm not going to say it here because that is why you have to come back in the next few weeks and find out for yourself.
Yeah.
But it's pretty damn cool. So I would tune in if I were you.
And what is the Guide star rating? I know we talked about it a little bit in previous, but
this is a good thing to talk about because
future as well.
Because I feel like I just took over this conversation.
Perfect.
Because so many people come to me and go, "Why don't you report here? And why don't you report here?" We have chosen one place to report because it's consistent. And if we tried to report everywhere, that's all I would do, and that's all Scott would do. It takes a lot of time.
It's very time consuming. If you go to candid.org or go to guidestar.org, they're all tied together. You can look up pretty much any nonprofit. All the big nonprofits are there. But you can look at if you want to know something, it's there. Sometimes I'll see that we have a poor rating somewhere. The rate, it's not that why are we being rated at all? We haven't fed any information to you. Whereas at GuideStar, we give our 990s, we give our audited books. I mean, everything you could possibly want to know about nonprofits are there, where the money comes from, where it goes, all that stuff. So we're excited to share that for the 15th year in a row, we have a platinum rating, which is the highest rating you can get for transparency.
That's great.
And that means everything they ask us for. Look, sometimes it's uncomfortable. And it's super time consuming to sit there year after year, especially because we grow so quickly and we've added so many different pieces to our mission over the years. You have to add that in every time you do something. So it's not a matter of me saying, "Hey, Shelley, we're going to have sleeper buses." That sounds great. Well, now you've got to go through all the other stuff to get there. And then you have to go to places like GuideStar and share that information, where the money's coming from, where's it going, and what does it hope to accomplish. And then next year, go in there and show that you accomplished what you said you were going to do.
Right.
So a lot.
So we are going to go into depth on the changing demographics of homelessness in a future episode. Do you guys care to give a little preview on that?
I will tell you that the changes will startle you.
Yeah.
As far as what we're seeing. And again, I'm going to leave that there. Sometimes you got to have a cliffhanger. But I think that people are going to be stunned as we start to roll out and lay out what the newest numbers look like and who these people are.
Yeah. Yeah. It's scary because we're on the cusp of that.
Yeah.
And that's scary. I mean, age wise, we're on that cusp.
Sure.
And, and then my own personal story, me taking care of the people that I take care of in my life. We have a lot of people with special needs. So it'll be interesting just to kind of peel back that and talk about that some more as well.
Definitely. Speaking of cliffhangers, Scott, any thoughts on the One Big Beautiful Bill or Alligator, Alcatraz?
The one thing they hate the most, for those of you that can't visually see us, is silence. When you do things that are silence is about what I've got, because I am just stunned by the thinking behind some of this. And whether you agree with it or not, the part that stuns me about it is that there are things that us and others have been trying to accomplish for years, and can't ever get the politicians to move or talk. They talk about, well, this is going to take this time and this is going to take that time. Alligator, what do they call it again?
Alligator, Alcatraz.
Yeah, it's stupid. But whatever. If it makes you feel good to have fancy little names for stuff, okay, ooh, okay, you escape, you get eaten by an alligator, okay, whatever. What I'm stunned by is the fact that they figured out in literally less than 2 weeks' time, went from idea to having it ready to open.
Roll it out.
Okay. And we can't get anything done for decades and decades and decades. And there's no money. There's never any money to do something. And yet we can expand our prison system, which we're doing. We're expanding our ways of how we deal with immigration. Rather than fix the immigration system, we're going to spend a ton of money to lock people up. There's
nobody.
I got some thoughts on that.
So they won't have to wait too long because it's going to be in our next episode.
Yeah, we're going to jump right on that.
Come back to that. Great.
I'll probably sit over here and be quiet.
we'll let him take the reins on that.
Ooh.
So let's remind people how Matthew's Hope is funded and talk about the challenges of fundraising in summer, because we're in the midst of summer currently.
So, yeah, well, I mean, we've actually started taking grants, which has been a huge learning process for me. I have some great people in my corner, which really helps. And it's still not a big portion of our budget for sure. And we're donor funded, mostly donor funded.
Yeah, I mean, currently, and this changes constantly, but currently out of our budget, about 6.2% of it is taxpayer funded. And I always want to focus on that too. And I've changed how I say it, because a lot of times people say, are you government funded? There's no such thing as government funding. The government does not produce anything. It is taxpayer funded. And as far as the kings and queens of our country, both at the federal and state and local level, we have to be reminded that these are taxpayer funded public servants.
Yeah.
And we have to start treating them as such. They are there to serve the will of the people. And we have failed to continue to understand that. And as we vote people in and out of office, we need to really consider that. They are there to serve the will of the people, and we are funding them to do so. So when they turn around and cut things or add things that we never asked for, we have to step back as a society and go, well, wait a minute, it's my money.
Right.
How would you like if I stopped by your house and I got into your wallet or your purse and I spent it how I thought would be best for you? Well, if we wouldn't allow it to happen, then why are we allowing it to happen at the local, state, the county, and the federal level? Just makes no sense to me.
It's a good point.
So bottom line is, to answer your question, yeah, we're mostly funded by the general public. And that's about
like you and me.
Yeah, it's people like you and me that have understood there's a problem and no one else is trying to address it. Many people have made it part of their regular giving, just like many do it with tithing at the church, or have made us a part of that tithe. So there's a lot of different ways of doing it, but your time, talents, and treasures is what makes the wheel go round at Matthews Hope.
Do you find a specific season more challenging?
Really, it's the summer. Summer is the most challenging just because, people are on vacation and they don't think about, they don't think about home. When we go on vacation, do we think about home and what we're spending on our money at home? So that's really probably going to be our biggest challenge.
And I think Florida in particular, because we have so many snowbirds that come here part of the year, that giving happens here during part of the year, and then it goes with them back home when they go.
Right. And then they go give to their charities.
Yeah.
I have very close people in my life that do that. And I'm like, well, wait a minute.
We're still there.
I'm still here.
Nonprofit is a tough place to be in during the summer. I jokingly often say that people love Jesus. They just love him more in the fall. But in all reality, as when I was still pastoring in the church has struggled during this time, as do, like I said, all the nonprofits do. And the other thing is, you can see it if you just watch television, especially, a lot of people are watching streaming now, so a lot more advertising. When you want to know how tough it is, you watch how all the big nonprofits, national nonprofits,
for sure,
are asking for your funds. And the challenge is we can't advertise that way. We just can't say for $19, I'll send you a T-shirt or a blanket, and it will change this or that or the other thing. I can't do that, and that makes it tough for the homegrown nonprofits, not just Matthews Hope, but anybody who's working across the country in this area of work.
So consistent donations, I feel, is that something that you guys encourage? So you guys can, plan ahead and be like, okay.
Makes it much easier for us to budget.
Yeah, we refer to it as sustaining donors, where they've set amount that comes to us once a month, once a quarter, what have you.
Forget it.
Yeah.
Don't even know it comes out of your check. Stop drinking the $10 cup of coffee.
Sometimes you need that $10 cup of coffee, but yeah, I mean, that allows us to budget better, and it makes it less of a struggle because we don't get a break during the summer. In fact, the summer is some of the most expensive times we deal with.
It really is, yeah.
For us in Florida, hurricane season, we can go through a month's worth of resources within days. We have to buy special things this time of year.
Insect spray.
Yeah. Oh,
and
gosh.
It's so expensive.
Yeah.
And we have to have it because our people are out in the elements and they get eaten up if they don't have it. And then that causes a whole new problem of their skin gets infected. And then we've got to deal with them on the medical. It just grows.
So something
we don't take care of it from
like
us.
we get a mosquito bite, ow.
Right.
It goes away. But somebody who's not able to take care of it, and it becomes a medical problem.
And we've all, if we admit it, sometime in our lifetime, we have scratched a mosquito bite on.
Oh, sure.
Okay. And for us, you go home, you put a little antiseptic on it, make sure you wash it out. When you're living out in the elements.
Able to wash your hands with soap and water often.
Yeah. Sure. And now you're out in the elements. You're where you can't wash your hands regularly and you touch it. And I have seen incredible infections that, quite honestly, somebody would have lost their arm, as silly as that may sound, had we not addressed it through our medical team.
Wow.
Wow.
And it's simple. It's mosquito repellent.
Yeah.
So that's something to think about when you guys are wondering what you can donate. Can you guys tell us about your big fall fundraiser you have planned this year?
It's going to be fun.
What's it called? What are we doing?
Oh, goodness.
Every year you guys have something.
Is this one Mobsters and Money?
Mobsters and Money is going to be in Orange County, and we're still leaving it as the Speakeasy and in Brevard County.
Okay.
But it's going to be a blast. I mean, we have live bands coming in, which is a little added that we didn't have before. We've just kind of taken everything we've done before and just gave it a shot of the adrenaline, and I think it's going to be that much better. If you miss these fundraisers and you're local, then you probably miss the best fundraisers.
They're not a typical fundraiser.
Yes, and it's always a surprise what Scott's going to wear for sure.
Yeah,
Last
Shirley
couple of
often.
Years, it's a surprise what I'm going to wear, even to me sometimes.
Yeah.
I look forward to that.
But it's
I really do.
so much fun, and it's a chance to raise money. But most important, look, it's hard to raise money at fundraisers
Yes.
now.
Yes.
When you serve a full meal and you have all the other fun things that we do, it gets expensive. So it's not just about funding making the immediate money, because everybody always wants to know, well, how much money did you make on
Right.
that?
And they want to know the Monday after.
Yeah, right, yeah. And we
We're
haven't even figured it out by
We're
then.
still trying to breathe.
Yeah.
Still trying to sleep.
Right.
The accountants are hungover. Okay,
Yeah.
whatever. But all kidding aside, it's more important. It's a chance to bring the community together that has supported you throughout the year, but also been able to show to them what their money went to, educate what's going on, but share that. I mean, I think the next year is going to be really interesting with our new sleeper buses and what have you, and some additional transitional housing. There's so many things we're working on right now that I think are going to be cool to talk about and then be able to celebrate at the end of the year.
Definitely. I look forward to that. Well, thanks everyone for watching and listening. Please like, share, subscribe to this podcast to help us reach a broader audience, and tell your friends, talk with your friends, and bring them to this podcast so we all can learn together and ask questions. You guys are very open, and you really want those questions so we can address them.
And if somebody has questions, send us. You can send them directly to me, scott.ballou@gmail.com. But they can send them directly to me. They can send it to info@matthewshopeministries.org. If you know somebody who'd be an interesting guest to have on, a politician, someone who disagrees with us, maybe it's you, reach out to us and we'll see what we can put together.
Definitely. So be sure to tune in next week for Scott's full reaction to the one big, beautiful bill in Alligator, Alcatraz. We'll see you guys next time.